Well, good morning. How you doing, friends? Bill and Lisa here. We are lighting the candle, a world that works. This podcast is generated on a weekly basis from a team of different people. We have different panelists from week to week. And every once in a while, we get fortunate to have a one-on-one situation where we can do what I call a spotlight. And that's where you can find yourself in a conversation and a dialogue between two friends that are committed to bringing empowerment to the world. And we do this with our livelihoods. As a matter of fact, before we talk about the topic today, Lisa, do you want to tell people a little bit about yourself, what you do for a living, and how you and I may have met?
Oh, sure. Um, Actually, Bill and I met at a networking event in Hartford a couple of years ago. Um, I think I think it's called Authentic Net Business Networking. Is that what
That's
it?
right. Yep. Sounds good.
And I didn't realize at the time that it was her first meeting. That she's just started the organization itself, and then I was new to networking myself, thinking about starting a new conscious living magazine, and that's where I met Bill initially. And about a year later is when I launched with a friend of mine, EPIC, which stands for Empowering People, Inspiring Community. And so it's been it'll be almost 2 years shortly. And we have local artists on the covers and local writers in between all the pages. And we're just trying to get together all the ways and means for people to make their lives better and the planet a better place as well.
Yeah. I think if I were going to sum it up, I would say that it's a mindset and mindfulness type of a magazine that allows you to really do some introspection and take inventory, what's important to you, and all of the well, let me put it to you this way. The articles that I've read, and I've been getting the magazine on a monthly basis now for a while. I am a paying subscription owner, which
Woo!
which I really like. And I would say that everything cover to cover is interesting to me every single month. Uh, that said, it's kind of an interesting place for us to maybe jump off here. Let's talk a little bit about mindfulness and mindset. When you think about um, what is interesting to most people, a lot of people set goals, right?
Right.
And a lot of people work hard at achieving goals. And I have a thought, and I'm kind of wondering how many people, before they do that, actually sit down, maybe in the quiet of the bedroom or on a beach or out on their back porch with just nature and everything, and start to think about, like, what are all the areas that I might be messing my life up, uh, can I make an inventory of those areas that I think need to have a little bit of attention? And then the next question might be something along the lines of, if I had a choice of doing anything in the world, what else would I be doing right now? And if the answer to that question doesn't come to you quickly, maybe you're doing absolutely the right thing that you should be doing. Maybe this is what is there for you to do next. So all of that said, you think about what goal setting has to do with. And Lisa, do you set goals?
I am one of those that I think I got lost in the goal setting. I mean, I think I can do minute by minute or day by day goals, but um, I discovered myself a long time ago that when I was in college and decided I wanted to be a copywriter, and I accomplished that goal in my early 20s, and then I never really set another goal. I was, I ended up being stuck in corporate America, and I didn't know it was almost like a lost art in my mind. I forgot to set up like a grander goal for my life.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting what you talk about, because it's true in my experience for most people. Once they set goals, it's pretty much a done deal. And in many cases, people will give themselves lots of time to accomplish a goal, but just by actually focusing on it and spending some time being mindful about it, the next thing you know, it's in the checkoff column, and nothing more to do there. So this is interesting. When I work with coaching clients and businesses and that sort of thing, we start with a where we are assessment, that sort of what's going on here and how have we met the enemy and they are us, kind of a deal. uh, that means that we've got things that we can either stop doing, do more of, or create something new, correct? So when we're looking in terms of communities, when we're looking in terms of uh, what moves large groups of people to do something, more often than not, it's somebody else's great idea for what they should be doing, in my opinion. And that's because at nowhere during their elementary, secondary, and college experience do we sit kids down and we say, look, you're going to have a shot at this, and it's going to make all the difference in the world if you have a direction in your life. What if you choosing a point out there on the horizon among all the millions and billions and trillions of stars that are out there on the horizon? What if you pick one of them and you say, for the rest of my life, that's going to be my North Star. That's going to be the thing that I use to, get myself back on course. The contemplation of what that North Star is for you at any point in time isn't going to change a whole heck of a lot in my experience. So, for example, when I think about what was important to me being raised in a family of 8 people with 6, kids, 5 siblings, that sort of thing, being a house in the neighborhood where folks congregated an awful lot. Um, what comes to mind is I actually, at some point, I think I was in the 3rd grade, I went to my mom and I said, I think we ought to have a family meeting. And so she told my dad when he got home, Billy thinks we ought to have a family meeting. And so he said, okay, let's have a family meeting. We sat down, and of course, my dad at that point was in charge of a department at Electric Boat, and had lots of people reporting to him. And so he was one of those guys that just challenged everything that came down the pike. What are you doing on this? Is that true? That sort of thing. So he asked me, a 3rd grader, what do you think we ought to have a meeting about? And I said, family. I think we should talk about family. I think we should talk about how important we are together. And I have no idea why I did that. It had to have been a response to something that I read or something I heard, or there was, I'm sure, an external reason for me to come up with that. And so my dad said, okay, go ahead. Tell me all about it. And of course, being a 3rd grader, I didn't have a lot to say. I only had that question, like, how important is family to me? Well, the thing is that over the rest of my period of time until I moved out of that home and my nuclear family went away because I was 18, 19, 20 years old going to college or whatever, that was always the thing. Our family always stuck together. So throughout the rest of my years, without really realizing it, that was my point on the horizon, that whatever I did, however I went through life, I had to include other people in a familial, or a family sort of a way. I don't know. Does any of that ring for you, Lisa? Maybe something different, or
Well, I think, in fact, I was on a class last night, a book study class, and I think I am rediscovering my North Star, which is something to the along the lines of humanity and equality and compassion for all kind of thing. I think, and I actually said this last night. I think I had that when I was younger, and then I've clouded it all over, and people have helped layer it upon me and all that other stuff. Like it happens to every person as they grow. It's like the 0 to 7 are your download years, and the rest you just base all the rest of your life on those downloads. Um, and now I'm uncovering all those things, and it's recent events or current events, I should say, the past year or so that have made it even more um, obvious to me. And I just become more aware of things that are just not right with people or with things in my heart.
yes,
So I don't know, where that avenue is going to take. So it's And like you were saying, but like GPS, you should have a destination when you plug it in GPS. Otherwise, you're not going anywhere. But the beauty of a GPS too is if you could veer off course if you really want to, but you're going to end up going back to your final destination. So and one of the things I don't know if Abraham Hicks, I don't know if you know Esther Hicks Abraham. And one of the things she was saying the other day, which she says a lot of poignant things, but this one was so simple. It was like, what would make me satisfied right now? So you're talking about goals and stuff like that. And then mindfulness is being in the moment. So for me, like right now, and it could be getting this report done or writing this article, or it could be taking a walk, and in this moment, what would make me most satisfied? I thought was a brilliant way to narrow it down to like how to live your life more mindfully.
Well, yeah, and what I love about that question, you can hear that a few different ways, right? And I know that the thrownness of many people will be, I don't like what I'm doing right now. So what would be that thing that would make me happiest or make me, I hear it completely different. It's called, let's just say, I'm not really enjoying what I'm doing right now. How do I put the onus back on me to generate enjoying and having happiness and being complete in this moment? Like right now, right here. One guy used to say, well, if you only have one thing to choose from, choose what you got, right? There's this whole exercise about where you feel like you're always going to have an alternative to what's happening right now. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes this is that thing you've got to finish, complete, get through. And it's been proven over and over and over again, no matter how dire the situation is, how much at risk you feel you are, the moment that you're in control of those emotional aspects and you make a decision, this is what I need to apply myself to right now. Let's see if I can get this done with joy and excellence. So
Right.
it's a very, very great thought. And that whole idea of picking a point down the road is very cool, because we know that setting a goal this year and next year, once that goal has been achieved, the actually the getting the piece of cheese isn't all the cool part,
Yeah. It's the journey.
Yeah. So if you live a life that's probably never going to be completely finished, you're never going to get all the way to your goal. What does that make possible and available?
No, because I always say, if you're finished, you're dead. So I'd rather not be finished.
Had that conversation. What was it that Luann said this morning? She said something like, retirement, is that what they do right at, right before they heat you up, And I said,
Oh,
or throw dirt in your face, one of
right.
those two things, right? So there's a healthy respect for how precious every moment is, and it's kind of a human characteristic. I don't believe animals have this ability to substitute something, in place of what's actually happening right now.
I
Now,
don't. Yeah,
one of these days when we learn how to talk to them fluently, we may find out differently. However, human beings are notorious for always wanting something different than what's here right now, and in many cases to their own detriment, where they miss out on such a great opportunity to have a really, really extraordinary life.
yeah. It's kind of misuse of imagination is one of our gifts. Our best gift to many in my mind, it's one of our Einstein's mind too. So
Yes, that's the interesting part of it. All of the really brilliant people are not all that interested in patents or owning an idea, or shutting down research in a particular area because somebody else has claimed it. You know, that's one of the reasons why, was it Sir Edmund Hillary climbed Mount Everest the first time, and it's like, well, do you think people stood around afterwards and said, well, he did that, we need to go find something else, maybe we'll go to Mars? No, there's been thousands of people.
right.
As a matter of fact, I think you have to stand in line these days in order to get a ticket to, be taken up there by Sherpas and all that other cool stuff,
I
right?
bet. I bet.
So the really neat part of it is that if you can go on a trip that's a lifelong trip, and you're going to have a whole bunch of day trips in the meantime. What kind of a lifelong trip do you want to choose that's going to bring meaning to every moment that you're in? You know, isn't that what we're also very hungry for, having meaning in our life, I think.
True. And um, I think one of the lessons I've learned a lot lately too is compassion for where every other person is in their life. Because I was at a social gathering, and I felt like this other person literally, like physically, faced away from my direction and made a negative comment about what I said as she was doing it. And I was like so blown away by it, but I was so thick skinned about it. I needed thick skin is what I really needed. And um, but I thought about it, and then I discussed it with other people. So, well, she's just not where you are, so she's in her evolution. So she's not thinking in terms of listening to the other people speak and then joining in the conversation or taking it in and seeing what resonates with her. She was more, like, no, I don't get that. So I'm going to turn over here and talk to this person.
So, say some more about that, because that's an interesting dynamic. And, there are people that are so self confident that they would say, no, 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 come on back over here. Tell me what you heard, And I really want to understand how that didn't land over there with you the way I sent it. Okay.
Right.
Simply because maybe you're not the only one. Maybe I can learn from this situation, you know? But what's really cool in our lives is that those times that we say something that we consider to be a gift, to the rest of the room, and it doesn't get received that way, it almost, you know, goes to wherever, ideas that don't get received go. I don't know where that is, but it's a conversation ender where, the curious mind, in constituting yourself, is always looking for what's up with that, the thrownness to that didn't go the way that I expected. So how is it going? What really happened here? Talk to me. Tell me what you heard. I'm more interested in that than what I said.
And I think the lack of social interaction in the past year has definitely had an influence over
We
my
do have a
slow.
little rust, don't we?
Yeah, yeah, and it shows.
Well, as we've said in other podcasts, and folks at home, if you haven't heard this before, we mean this with all the love that is attendant, to the commitment that we have to make your life an empowered one. We've pretty much decided that human beings, that part of our design is we kind of suck at being people,
Right.
And that being said, that the mindfulness route, and having the mindset that basically says, I want to know more about the world, which translates, to the mindful person. I will never know anything about the world, but I will know more about me. I will know more about how I automatically behave. I'll know how, the inauthentic me that I'm unaware of, can become unconcealed for a minute or two. And then we can have these really great things that maybe we can create a new relationship or something that's a lot more fun than when we walked into the room and kind of, felt uncomfortable and uneasy, about the awkwardness of saying hello.
And I think that's been the brilliancy of the Zoom phenomenon too, because I it's allowed me, and I think most people, to listen more, especially when there's a big Zoom room and you have to almost, but it's made me listen more deeply and take in what the person's saying a lot more deeper and see that point that it's not always what I'm thinking, just to question everything that you think, listen to what they're saying and what, almost like go, huh, never thought of it that way, but I'm glad you brought that up kind of thing.
Yeah, like, it's different if you go out trying to just slide through your life one conversation at a time, or if you're actually playing a game called This is Research. you know? Research and development. We are ongoingly growing like a weed. And where that comes from, another really favorite guy of mine back in the old days used to say, the truth shall set you free, and first it shall piss you off. So the whole idea is to gain some muscle in the area of things not turning out quite the way that you anticipated, and that not to ruin your day. And sometimes there's like this period of time. I can tell you early on when I started working and I got myself over my head in some of the jobs that I had, where I had folks, I got promoted. You know, that Peter principle thing, you get promoted to your highest level of inefficiency or inadequacy or whatever the thing actually is. Well, that happened to me quickly because I was kind of an outgoing, hardworking, pretty, vocal, and not a lot's changed in that area, but I like to think that I have better listening skills than I did back in those days. So it was hard for me, to take criticism from people because I thought the goal in life was to never be criticized.
True.
Imagine how that turned out.
Yeah, yeah, no. And yeah, I really admire your gift of being confident
Well,
now.
it's been an overnight success over 40 years. Okay.
But
But
yeah, I could tell that, it's something you consciously worked at too. I mean, I could tell by, speaking to you and knowing you for a while now that, I don't think people aren't, well, I think maybe some people are born with it, but I don't think so. I mean, I think that's got to be cultivated more than nature, you
I,
know.
I'm going to agree with you. I really think our social skills are 100% nurture, in the environment, simply because we have no language. If we get dropped with wolves, we're going to learn the wolves' language. We don't have any methodology of suddenly, behaving like a human being when it's reasonable to behave like a wolf, if you will. Okay. So let me just say this to you. It's a decision, to get better at not sucking, like to advance that a little bit every week and month. It took a long time for that to actually make any kind of sense to me. I mean, first it seemed like something I need to do to make people like me,
Right.
and then later on, if people like me, I get promoted again, right? I liked getting promoted. That was pretty cool. Especially since I had not graduated from college. I started out working with my hands on machinery and that sort of thing. Um, and so when I really did get into a type of a position where people were counting on me, that was a big deal. And I felt like being criticized or doing something that seemed like it was wrong enough that somebody would have to correct me was me letting them down in that responsibility they gave me. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I wonder if anybody else feels that way or has ever felt that way. That especially in a conversation with somebody that you care about a whole bunch, and a lot of issues, it's going to be family members, or it's going to be somebody who's a longtime friend who brutally lets you have it between the eyes, and it's not good news. For the most part, it's not good news. Until it's the way the relationship should work, you know. And I have that kind of relationship with a couple of people, and we basically say we say things that are a little too colorful for this type of a podcast where I'm not sure who's going to be listening. However, it's you got a lot of people in your life, Bill or Bob or Nate or whoever. You got a lot of people that are happy to blow smoke up your skirt. Okay, you want to go spend time with them? In the end, my answer is always no. Give me what you got. Give me your best shot. See if I'm still standing. Right. So, I mean, that's my personal look at it, and I kind of wonder if we took children from an early age, and I see two kinds of behavior. One is not to correct them at all. Oh, they're just children. They'll figure it out. Or the other one where they're being mercilessly chased around, by Sister Mary of the Inquisition. Everything they do is wrong. And I wonder if it has more to do with just asking them to think about what they're doing, what you just did. How's that make you feel? Is that the way you want to be seen by other people? How would you really like to be seen? What would you really like to do with your time? And what kind of a difference would you like to make with people?
And I was thinking, well, because I was, as far as children too, is watching a movie that the Shift movie that Wayne Dyer did, and there's a nice little scene where the kids are running around and he's just smiling happily, and the mother's yelling her lungs out, and so he just calmly says, "Well, yeah, I like to practice non-interference," and so she kept yelling at the kids to come eat lunch, and all of a sudden they go, we're not hungry," and she goes, "You know what? Come eat when you're ready." And Wayne just looks at her and smiles.
My goodness. I miss him. I miss him a
Oh my
whole,
goodness.
yeah. He may be a scurvy elephant, but he was my scurvy elephant,
I love Skirville.
The, the whole notion of being misunderstood, or if we just kind of put this hat on where we were sure that if anybody ever disagreed with us, we didn't understand them or they don't understand us. Now, how do we go further with that conversation?
Well, I think that, so we're coming full circle again, back to the understanding, or back to my predicament of being in that situation where, I'm not even sure if I wasn't understood, but it wasn't taken well, let's put it that way. And so the conversation shifted abruptly.
Right.
Um, so I'm still learning how to navigate that social situation, but who knows what that stems from. And back to family too. If you have, like you were talking, I had a father that he was kind of absentee, more or less, kind of thing. So there's nothing I wanted more than his attention.
Sure.
I would do anything to get his approval, and that was my North Star as a child.
Well, and I'll tell you what, the strategies and tactics of a child that wants to be noticed, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's always being noticed for something good, in my experience. I actually know that I observed some behaviors around my house growing up that had absolutely nothing to do with anything other than just getting attention.
Oh, and there's all levels. Yeah. I mean, and I have two younger sisters, and we acted out the roles perfectly. I was the eldest child, so I just kept getting good grades and trying to get attention that way.
Right.
The middle child was all over the place, getting in trouble and stuff like that, and the youngest one kind of disappeared and tried to join other families.
Exactly. So imagine, will you, if you will, this kind of, a heavenly place where people are taught at a very young age to figure out what their horizon point is, and to understand. I mean, we talk about what your why is, and your why almost always has to do with relationships or family, or something that might seem either very sacred to you or might even be missing. Okay.
Right.
So the why is still leaving lots of room for more questions, what's beyond that. And the direction, in my opinion, is far more important. Like having that feeling in your gut where there's a shift, a felt shift that, yes, that's it. It doesn't even necessarily have to be languaged at that point. But we do like to have something that's a placeholder, for when we had an emotional breakthrough or something of that nature. So again, let's imagine everybody in life gets to go through that on a regular basis. How much time do you think would be spent with people having thoughts that were self-sabotaging, or I'm really not a good person, or what would their intention be on if they had spent the time to constitute their life as a vehicle and a vessel to get, to a strategic journey, if you will, a strategic journey that the reinforcement to it and the reward for it is like climbing a mountain, right? So why are you climbing? Because I'm climbing. Okay. And so what are you going to get when you get to the top? I'm going to get more climbing. So, that just goes on and on and on. So that brings you back to that opportunity for the mindfulness and mindset. The that very powerful mindset that basically says, I have a righteous journey for me.
Right.
My life is meaningful, and I love who I am being. And then the other part of it is the mindfulness is at any particular moment where some other thought is creeping into your mind, you can immediately say, thank you. Back to work, climbing again. Here I go. I'm climbing.
Not today.
Exactly.
Well,
Thank you for, yeah, go
we
ahead.
talked about that too, like the path. If you have, and it's not something that we're used to as that we were brought up with, but to have like every decision, like how does it feel in your body? Does it make, does it feel right to
Yes.
you? Because bad things will feel bad
Yep.
and you'll know it. So if you have that kind of compass, that pointing north point, and as we've talked about before, then you're not thrown off course as easily as you would have otherwise. So I think that what you're saying is absolutely true. If you have that way of making those decisions for your being in every moment, then you won't get thrown off course like most people are, like me in a conversation on a social gathering.
It's exactly right. When people get access to the mechanisms and the mechanics that we're born with, the head, the heart, and the gut, those three things, as we like to say, are the BS detectors. Those are the ones that are, if they're not in alignment with each other, there's something kind of screwy going on around here. And that's where the curious mind steps in and starts to make sense of, is there something that I'm not aware of? Is there something here that I can learn from, or is this just a really uncomfortable situation and I can't wait for it to be over? All of those things may be true. It may be that, D, all of the above, right?
Right.
So Lisa, any final thoughts on this half hour? Awesome conversation with you as usual. And then we'll jump over to the other side. And just to recap.
I think a nice recap is to go within yourself and find your point. I just thought the thought just came to me. Point of promise. I don't know where it came
I
from.
like that. That's
I
great.
um I think I have to write that down. But use that and go within yourself to see if every decision you make every moment of every day, and then you could use the does it satisfy me, or what is the most satisfying thing to do in this moment. And
Right.
like I said, it doesn't mean that the most joyful thing, you could turn it into a joyful thing, but it could be, like I said, finishing that report would make me so happy right now, would satisfy me.
Yes.
So, and to use that in every moment and to listen to people and to not get knocked off so easily by always coming back to your center or your point of promise.
Excellent. Make sure so I'm going to talk to our producer for a second. We're doing a point of promise half hour at some point in the future, Eric. All right. Lisa, I love it. Shall we wrap this one up and get on to the other side?
Certainement.
Okay. Bye-bye, y'all. Come on back.
You've been listening to Lighting the Candle, a world that works, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can hear us at exvadio.com/podcasts, Apple Podcasts app, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and wherever you find podcasts.